I'm Alex Batdorf, and you're watching Get Shit Done, the place where we're taking female entrepreneurs from inspiration to activation by giving you access to the resources you need to grow your company on your own terms. Many of us grew up hearing about the importance of community. The community is going to have you in the hard times, the community is going to uplift you, and the community is going to be there to celebrate the wins with you too. So not only can you build really powerful connections with your community, you can also build a pretty badass and meaningful business with your community too. That's why I brought on my guest today, who did just that. Evita Robinson is the founder and CEO of Nomadness, the first of its kind online social community for travelers of color. Now her community consists of over 21,000 international members and growing, with over 100,000 passport stamps and nearly 100 meetups a year. They also have their very own festival called Audacity. She's also garnered partnerships with Airbnb, GoPro, Facebook, and Issa Rae. Whenever Evita is not traveling and nurturing her community, you can catch her giving a TED Talk, featured in the New York Times, or Travel and Leisure, Ebony, better yet, listed as Entrepreneur Magazine's 50, yes honey, 50 most daring entrepreneurs. And if you didn't think she could be any more of a boss, think again. She's also been invited to the White House under the Obama administration for their meeting of world's creative change makers. Now that's what I call Black Girl Magic. Evita, welcome to Get Shit Done.
Hey, girl.
How's it going?
Everything is happening. How are you?
I'm amazing. And guys, if you peep her lip color, it is her mine. And let me tell you, that shit will stay on your lips and it's popping.
All day, every day.
Okay, so tell us, what is Nomadness and why did you start it?
Right. So Nomadness now is 21,000 members worldwide,
Wow.
which is crazy considering I started it about 7 years ago with 100 people. And so we're an international travel community, primarily African-American women, but we definitely have men. We have people from other ethnicities in the tribe, but we attract who we attract. We're run by a Black woman, and so we congregate a lot as Black women. And we do everything from international trips and events, domestic events. We now have a new festival. As of September 8th, 2018, we launched Audacity Festival, which is the first of its kind for Black and brown travelers to have those honest, open conversations about, traveling under Trump, LGBTQ travel, like all of these conversations that people are kind of like tiptoeing around, but we deal with every single day. And so we're an international community, also event, festival, international trips, and and my baby, my labor of love for the last 7 years.
That's incredible. So what does tribe mean to you? Because you kind of stumbled into this.
Yeah, I was an accidental entrepreneur, which I like to say. Yeah, right. And so I was a 3-time expat, right? So I had lived in Paris, I had lived in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and Niigata, Japan. And while being an expat, I was like, look, there's got to be more people like me, that look like me, that come from my background, that I can relate to, that travel the world. But there was no real congregation point. It was before Instagram started. It was when Twitter was like, top 10 here and there. And I'm like, I don't need all that shit. Like, I need like an actual community and people I can talk to about real stuff I'm going through while I'm on the road. Why am I going through reverse culture shock? What the hell is that? I had dengue fever that I had caught while I was backpacking in Cambodia. I'm like, I need to talk to people about like real shit that happens when you go on the road. And so I ended up creating a community. And to be honest with you, with saying yes to the needs and wants of the community, I realized very swiftly that it was going to be more than just a community, and it was actually going to turn into a business, and monies were going to be exchanged, and a merchandise line was going to be made, and trips were going to be booked. And so I had to make sure that the entities were put together.
Got it. So then how has building a tribe contributed to building the revenue in your business over 7 years?
Well, the cool thing about having a community and tribe is the fact that you can use them as a focus group for anything that you're trying to do.
Yes.
That whole quote that Maya Angelou has, I come in the room as one and I stand as 10,000, is quite literal for me.
No, like 20,000.
Right, like 21,000 now. So using them as a focus group, but them telling me things that they want and that they don't want. So for instance, our two main big activations outside of our trips every year are the annual barbecue that we do and now Audacity Fest. What we've done to build out our locations is we put a poll in the group and we're like, look, where would you want to see this? And they vote. And as far as the barbecue is concerned, whatever location that they pick, that's where it happens. Like we have zero control over it. And with the Audacity Fest, we threw like maybe 10 feelers out there with some of our internal favorites, voted, and, ended up going with one of their top 3. So I think the revenue comes directly from also listening to the community and also giving them the opportunity to be a part of the process, which in so many businesses, they're not. So we literally take their ideas into consideration every step of the way. Even when we build out itineraries, we're taking information from threads and country documents and all of these things in the tribe from places that they've already been. So we know what our demographic is doing on their own, thus what they would want from us, to create for them. And so literally all of it directly injects itself into what we provide as far as services and sometimes even designs for new things that we have coming out. T-shirt lines. We've pulled sayings from the tribe and put them on T-shirts. Like, yeah, it all goes back to the community and, us kind of spying on them, but using them as a focus group.
That's amazing because then you're not trying to guess because I have.
Right.
I've seen so many companies and even companies that I consult that are like, well, like, what do people want to hear? And it's just like, if you guys start developing your own community, you don't have to ask those questions because it's already inherent.
That's or you can just ask them directly without having to throw something out and waste money on, trying something out that isn't going to vibe with them. Because we've also fucked up, and it's like, but the cool thing is we learn fast because tribe is very vocal, and we give them a platform in which there is definitely a level of freedom. And I'm always, a cyber arm reach away. So it's not like myself or my team is this intangible kind of thing that sits up some hierarchy. Like we're members as much as we are the leaders of it as well.
I love that accountability. And I don't give a fuck what people think about Kim Kardashian, but the one thing her and her sister Kylie do really well in developing their products is asking even their community, just saying, if it's something as small as, hey, what do you like in terms of this package? Do you like this gray or do you like this nude?
Right.
And that gets that buy-in. That's easy marketing so people are ready for when things come out.
Yeah.
Sign me up because you collaborated with your community. I think that's incredible.
Right.
So what do you think in terms of, okay, you've been doing this for 7 years now, 21,000 members later.
Yeah.
So how do you even get started in building like, did you even, I can't even imagine 21,000 people, you're like, how the fuck did I get here? But you obviously had to start somewhere. So how did you even get started?
I started with 100 and I used the resources that were available to me when I was 27. I started it when I was 27 and that was Facebook. Like I use social media. I mean, every social media outlet has its own juice, right? If it's like videos and you're looking at YouTube, if it's images, you're looking at Instagram and, they're trying to dabble into video as well. But if you're looking at community, no online social media platform does community better than Facebook. It's just factual. Luckily, I was able to see that and register that really, really early on and jump in. And so it's like, as they know that this is kind of like one of Facebook's bread and butter and it's how they're keeping people on the platform and building out the platform, it's like, every time we thought about taking the community off of Facebook, Facebook does some shit that just makes our lives easier, and like we're building out an app, like you met Vaughn is building out our app. But at the same time, it's like, for the meantime, especially with a group of that many people all over the world, from our docs to our pictures to the resources to our searching, like there are years worth of an archive. Even as we phase off, we will always have the Facebook entity because there's too much fucking information. Yeah. Like, there's too much information. So many relationships were built there. So I think it'll always be a part of our ecosystem, but it will be a yes and rather than an either or. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it was Facebook, and that's all I had. I didn't start with money. I was freelancing in television production when I did this, and started like having to stay at work super late because the work I was supposed to be doing on the TV shows, I was like fucking around in Tribe, laughing and like completely zoned in and escaping through them. So I would end up being at work really late. And it was one situation where the show got canceled before it went to air. And so like a week before Christmas 2011, everybody got fired. And this happens a lot in production. And we're just like, well, shit, what do we do? Tribe was only maybe 2 or 3 months old. And I said, look, I now have an opportunity where I can kind of pay attention to this, at least for a couple months, or I can jump back into this freelance rat race where I know I'm working like 15 hours a day, killing myself. And so I decided to focus and kind of give it a chance for a couple months. And I haven't worked for anybody else since.
And like I said, it's not going to be either or, it's going to be and, because
Yes,
a lot
and.
of people mistake like, oh, we're going to put our eggs all in this one basket, which there's no company, there's nothing that works like everything can work here. Because especially as you're growing, like you need different angles in order to get in front of people. So I like that you mentioned that. So what would you say over 7 years, what are the key things that you would advise other female founders to focus on that really helped you to even grow your tribe to now 21,000 members? What are the key things that you consistently do that keep people coming back?
Understanding that niche is not a bad word. Mm-hmm. Understanding like you're not supposed to be for everybody. And some people may not like that. Some people may not want that. I remember in the early days because the prerequisite to get into Nomadness is you have to have at least one passport stamp, just one. We used to get called elitist in the earlier days just because of one passport stamp. And I was like, it's not that we're elite. It's that when people come into this space, and you know me, I like creating safe spaces and community. They know that they are amongst their peers. My job in this space is not to coerce you into your first trip and try to tell you why it's going to be life-changing. We need people who have already done that on their own, who already know that this is what happens when you go abroad, and who are like, yo, I'm ready for like go number 2, 3, 4, 50, 100. And that's the type of community that we wanted. We are not for the I've never gone out novice traveler. We are inspiration to them, and there are other platforms that we are on to derive that. But as far as the group itself, we are a niche in that way. And I have never jeopardized that. And I think that's what's made the brand loyalty, both privacy and respect of one another in the group. People don't cut up. The tribe polices itself for the most part. And they know who to contact and tag in a post if stuff gets out of hand. So I think understanding that a niche and that you're not for everybody is very, very integral, and zoning in on the people that count that you are trying to reach. Fuck everybody else. It's not your concentration. And if they are, you're doing too much, and you need to really lean out and focus yourself. So for me, there's that. 2 is listening to that said community once it's built, right? Be able to create a culture. Community is one thing, but if you can create a culture within your community, then you're really, really, really onto something. I'm trying to see if I do. So in Nomadness, when I started it, and these are the new ones, actually, the tribe hasn't even seen these. We have membership cards, right? Right. So we used to have a white card. Now it's like this kind of like frosted see-through card. The black card is for members who attend an official Nomadness trip, right? The white card is for people who are just in the tribe. You can get them at a meetup. You can get them seeing me at one of our events. And then we used to have red cards, but now they're these like cool gold cards for people who have done like, I say that they're an urban myth, right? The only people in tribe who have gotten the red cards are people who have survived an earthquake that we had during checkout in Tokyo, that have run with the bulls with us in Pamplona, Spain, that have like drank the blood from like a boa constrictor in Bali, like real crazy shit.
Yeah, I love that.
Right. So we have these levels. So now you have this community, but now you have this tiered community within the community that creates culture, right? And that is something where if you can embed and create culture and have that grow out, that's something that's really, really integral, really cool to actually watch come to fruition. But really integral to brand building, right? The other thing is team. Because the thing is, like, when you start, I didn't know what Nomadness was. Again, going back to that accidental entrepreneur. I did not know what Nomadness was. I did not know I was starting a business. I knew I was starting a community, but I didn't know that this was going to be my, like, wherewithal. Yeah. So with that being said, it was a lot of like friends or, hey, I'm peeping you in tribe and it looks like you have a strength where I may have a weakness or an interest where I don't. So let's we're in this canoe plugging holes. I need to make sure that, I have people that are skilled in places that I'm not. And the thing is 7 years in, you're not going to need the same thing 5 years, 6 years, 7 years in that you needed the first couple years in, especially as you start to formulate and figure out exactly what the hell you are and what you're doing and what your business represents. And so for me, the one thing that I should have done was did this earlier, years earlier, but letting go of an entire team and almost starting over in the middle, 7 years, 6 years out, and really being open and honest about the skill sets that are needed. I had to grow up. My business model had to be gutted because I wasn't really retaining any money. And then it became that much more difficult to pay people with where we were before, because my emphasis in the beginning, I come from like backpacker shit, right? Like I can be cute, but I'm like, yo, drop me somewhere with a backpack and like, let me figure it out. Super gritty, right? And so with that, I wanted to make sure that our trips were affordable for, I say, everything from like the new college graduate that only has a couple $100s all the way to like the self-made millionaire in tribe. And we have a ton of both. And it was cool to be able to have experiences that were priced in a way that could afford both of them, because in any other circumstance, they would never come together. They would never be traveling together. Their styles would be completely different. And so the socioeconomic, the age difference, there's all these levels that make our community so dynamic and cool when they interact with one another, especially abroad. The thing is, they were priced too fucking low. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so it ended up having to be like looking at a middle ground and kind of going from there. And I always tell people, like, unless you're first in an area, you don't know what it's like to be first. Yeah. Even if you're second, you don't know what it's like to be first. And so it was difficult for me also in the earlier days, not being 100% confident in what it was and knowing if they were going to stay with me or if it was a fad, and then I'm like getting people's money. But then you start to see people break off and kind of do the same thing that you're doing, right? And it's just like, well, fuck. And then you see them charging more, doing the same shit that you're doing, and maybe not even as well. And so it's like, it's all of these things that start to play games with you, but it's a part of the process. It was a part of my process. Yeah. And so coming into literally at New Year's Day at my apartment, there was about a dozen of us. I had a breakdown. And it was just like, yo, like I have got to purge everything. And I also have to get the fuck out of my own way, because there were things that could have been done earlier that I was for whatever reason hung up in my own head, and I was stopping myself. And so one of the biggest things was I did an audit of my team, put everybody on pause for a couple weeks. And then at the end of it, I ended up deciding to do a clean sweep, while compassionately done, while empathetically done, while understanding with these people, it still had to be done. And it was hard, and it still is hard, in certain respects. These are, people that are friends or that have been there from the beginning, and it's just one of those things where you grow apart. It's like a relationship. Yep. Sometimes you just grow apart from people. That shit happens in business too. And it's not anybody's fault. It's just the business needs things. And my business happens to come with a community, and community comes first.
It's kind of the different growth stages. So you have to start with the community. But what keeps the community and what actually is sticky is you build a culture. And I've seen a lot of people now, because now there's people like you who have been doing Facebook groups and doing it well. So you get a lot of bandwagon people. Yeah. And I've seen companies do this where they create these Facebook groups, get people in it, and they have nothing to say.
They don't know what to do. They don't have to. And the bread and butter really is when the creator gets out of the way. You have a real community and culture when I can tell you right now that there's at least a dozen conversations going on in Nomadness right now that I have nothing to do with. Yeah. And that's when you have something. If it's dictatorial and going from the top down constantly, it's not a community.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you're feeding into them. But when the communication becomes linear and you can get out of the way and step aside and go on a fucking vacation or deal with an issue and not have to be in there for the community to sustain itself, that's when you really have community.
Yeah. And what I love that you touched on, and there's so many female founders that I've talked to who struggle with delegation. And women in general, we are by nature nurturing.
Yeah.
And it is so hard for us to let go, even when, and sometimes I think we fail to look at it as, yes, we might need to let someone go in our team, and that's going to be a hard thing. And like, what are they going to do next? But realizing it's a value trade-off. So if we feel like we're not growing with them on the team, they're probably not growing either.
Right.
So
that's right. And you know what? It's so funny that you say that. Oh my God, it's so funny that you say that. Because I also harbored a lot of guilt. And I didn't realize that until a couple months after the split had happened and I had like the new team on board. Yeah. I had harbored a lot of guilt because I think me not having my shit completely as tight as I needed it to be, I felt like I was taking on their personal stress. Right? Like them not going to something else in their personal life or whatever, like it was my fault. And I had to like forgive myself of that and also release myself of that and talk to friends who were like, hey, yo, this is not your fault because, you know, this has been 6-7 months down the line. Have you been turning around and looking and seeing like, have they made this exponential process, you know, and progress without being a part of this team anymore in this time frame? Or is it the same thing over and over again? So because I've been working with them for so long, it was hard for me to see them as individuals on their own path in their own process without it being attached to what was going on with Nomadness. And so that's been a very interesting point of view because now I'm not in it and I'm able to like observe them without, you know, without the attachment.
Which I love because I went to a gathering at your home and a few of your former employees were there. And the fact that everyone was still cool because the fact that you were compassionate, empathetic about it, and still maintain those relationships, I'm sure, like helped them along the way afterwards. Really speaks to what you built. So this is a great way to piggyback off of my next question, which is, what do you feel have been the biggest mistakes that you want to caution other female founders to in regard to building community?
Again, to team, like it really is the whole like hire slow, fire fast. Again, that's like one of the biggest mistakes. I learned that the
hard way because
it's very hard, but
it's expensive.
Yeah,
so expensive.
Yeah. And so it's like, labor is always going to be like your biggest cost. So that's really, really big, and making sure that you have like adhere to those like 3-month progress reports. Like, how are you feeling? How am I feeling? Is this working? Is it not? You know, and not being scared to do that. That's a big thing for me. You have to show up. I say this all the time. I've gone through major shit with Nomadness. And I say, as a leader, I show up when it's pretty and I show up when it's shitty. I have gone through marriages and babies that have come from members that have met in Nomadness. I have also gone through death and been at the funeral of some of my tribe members. Again, you have to, if you are going to be a leader of a community and you are going to be the face of your brand and step out from behind the green curtain, if everybody knows who Oz is, you have got to figure out before you do that what type of leader you are so that you don't misrepresent yourself in the face of your community, because they're going to come to you because shit is going to happen. For me, I'm the leader that shows up when it's most difficult. And during the moments of celebration. And so I think identifying the type of leader that you are and where you want to be, if you want to be the face of your brand, if you want to give that over to somebody else and you kind of play the background, if you want to be more silent, if you want to stick to the product, just, you have to really do a self audit and examine how you really feel honestly and how you want to play your position.
I love that. So then what would you say in terms of nurturing? Because the biggest thing when it comes to community in general is you can't, as we've seen so far, is you can't just leave it and set it and forget it. Like, there is a lot that goes into community. If you're going to do it, you need to be invested. So what are some tips you have in terms of nurturing community so you're getting people to keep coming back for more?
So nurturing community, providing offline experiences as well as online. I think a lot of people think that they can just create this thing, like you said, set it and forget it. you need to create stuff that brings people together. Because the other thing is, remember, like, particularly millennials, our generation, we're the only generation that knows what it was like before and after social media while being entrenched in it. I say it all the time. I'm like, I'm the same age as Mark Zuckerberg. Like, I remember when to get on Facebook, you had to have a school ID, email address. Yeah, like, I'm like, they forget this shit. And I'm just like, yo, like, we knew we're the only ones that really are a part of it, but also know what it's like before and after. And I think we navigate the benefits better too. We know how to, like, keep private what we want private, and also, like, be able to build business and broadcast whatever we want to broadcast. The generation coming from before, like, after us, like, they broadcast everything. They were born into it. And their parents were broadcasting them probably at an age before they could be like, yo, like, maybe I don't want my, like, adolescence all up on social media. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't even have that option anymore. Our kids, like, they're going to be literally born into social media. So I think that is very, very important when it comes to dissecting and looking at, like, community and understanding how to navigate that flow, the benefits, and, you know, the pros and cons. I think also with community is, again, the tangible, like I said, the tangible events outside, listening to them and creating experiences. We're in an experience economy. You know, everything is an experience. Even if you're selling a product, your product is, like, got to be attached to some type of experience, whether it's what the packaging looks like and how it gets there, or your marketing campaign. We're also in this very world conscious generation where it's like, if you're giving back and doing something around sustainability, you know, those are things that are important to us, and understanding what drives our generation, but also the generation coming up underneath us, because that's how your community is also going to have rollover and longevity. You know, like, we're also thinking about Nomad Juniors right now, and like, okay, well, what platforms are they on? You know, because our membership is now getting older, 7 years older from when we started. They're having children. And the cool thing is that because we're their parents, they're going to be traveling much younger than we ever were. So they're already going to want to be embedded in this type of community. So it's like, okay, how do we serve? And I think that's another thing, understanding and trying to find ways to serve your community. You are at service. Don't let the role of CEO get to your head. You are their bits. Do not ever forget that.
Never. You are a servant.
Yes, you are a servant to whoever your community is. And when shit hits the fan, you got to be there. These people give their time, their energy, their vulnerability. In my community, their money, you know, their time, they're booking flights. Or, like, you have got to take care of these people. And so I think that hospitality, but also that real life tangibility. For us, ambassadorship has been awesome. We are about to gut our ambassador program, speaking of things that are being gutted, but we have about 30 ambassadors regionally all around the world. And so they're the ones who, like, are quarterly doing a meetup to make sure that people are meeting in real life, creating their own events, you know, and even potentially making money off of it, depending on what they're doing with our blessing on it. You know, they're the ones who are holding our, you know, white membership cards where people are like, yo, I want a card. I need to floss in my photo in Morocco or wherever. And so they're just like, okay, who's your regional ambassador? And they're also helping us with our bigger activations. So our California tribe was really hands-on, and like almost 40 of them became volunteers for Audacity Fest in Oakland 2018. And we're building out our Richmond division for the barbecue, as well as Memphis for Audacity 2019. So I think giving people roles and allowing them into the process and helping is really, really big, because that's when they, you know, they'll ride with your flag and be your mouthpiece, you know, without you ever being around.
Did y'all hear that? She said, you know, you've built a meaningful community and culture when you have your people waving your flag and being your mouthpiece when you're not even there. Take a moment, because that was powerful. Now I want to hear from y'all. What are you doing to get your community to do all that? Or if you don't have your community doing that and you have questions and comments, make sure to comment below. And if you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to continue to learn from other badass babes like Evita, make sure to subscribe to this channel. But until next time, queens, keep getting shit done.